Perfect, thank you. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for Cal Poly Pomona Bronco Bound Q&A session today. We're happy to bring everybody together for this opportunity to ask questions. Today's session is going to be held by various departments, and we'll be able to answer questions related to Office of Admissions and Financial Aid and Scholarship. And then we also have our outreach representative that will also be helping and to share information about our open house. But we welcome you to our webinar today. If you notice towards the very bottom, there is a Q&A section. If it is hidden in your Zoom bar, please go ahead and click on the Zoom on the 3-dot icon that says more, and you should be able to see that Q&A section for us to be able to answer questions as we go along. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started. Next slide, please. So the first thing we want to say is we often get the question of when is the fall semester going to start? And so we like to share with our students to save the date, mark it on your calendar. August 24th is the first day of the fall semester. So we're excited that you have applied for our fall semester. So this would be the first day of school for every one of you. And so mark this in your calendar as we continue to move on through the admissions cycle. Next slide. In the next 45 minutes, we are going to be very ambitious in making sure that we get you information from the Office of Admissions, Office of Financial Aid and Scholarship, and our open house invitation to you all. We're going to be answering questions in the Q&A through the end of the session. So we do ask for you to kind of give your attention to the presenters as they may be answering quite a number of questions that you may have on hand. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to our Office of Admissions.
Hi everyone, my name is Jasmine Flores and I'm the lead admissions counselor in the Office of Admissions here at Cal Poly Pomona. First off, I want to say congratulations on your acceptance. You all should be extremely proud of yourself. Over the next few slides, I'm going to go over your guys' next steps. Next slide, please. So if you haven't done so already, you do need to accept your admission offer by May 1st. This process is done through your Bronco Direct, so your portal that you all should have access to already. This is a two-step process. You have to pay, or you have to accept your admission offer and then pay the $150 enrollment deposit unless you have a fee waiver. And you'll know if you have a fee waiver when you're going in and accepting your offer. It doesn't prompt you to pay, and it just allows you to go through the process and accept that admission. Just some things to remember that the $150 goes towards your fall tuition. So it's not an extra fee that we are taking. It's going to be added to your fall, or going to be taken away from your fall tuition. Again, there is a deposit fee waiver. This is something that is assessed through your financial need. There is no appeal for this process. You either qualify for the fee waiver or you don't. Again, you'll know if you get the fee waiver when you're accepting your admissions offer. It won't prompt you to pay. And this deposit is non-refundable or transferable. So say you submit your intent and then you decide CPP is not where you're going to end up going. Unfortunately, that $150 we cannot refund. Or if you decide to go to another CSU, we also can't transfer that $150. This is a bit of a long process, so we do have step-by-step PDF tutorials on our website, along with a video tutorial that lets you know exactly how to accept your offer. And again, the deadline to do so is May 1st. I encourage all of you to do this as soon as possible. Don't wait till the last day. If you don't accept your offer by May 1st, our office will end up withdrawing your application, which obviously we don't want to happen. So just make sure you're staying on top of all of our deadlines. Next slide, please. And so after you accept your admission offer, you want to register for new student orientation. Orientation is mandatory for all incoming students. The last day to register for orientation is May 8th. But again, if you've already submitted your intent or know that Pomona is where you want to come, and submit that intent to enroll and then register for orientation as soon as possible. Registration is done through your MyCPP. Once you submit your intent to enroll, you will be emailed by our orientation office, who can give you instructions on how to register through your MyCPP. They also have instructions on how to register on their website. So there is an orientation fee. This is separate from the enrollment deposit fee. So for first-time freshmen, the fee is $194.29. And for transfers, it is $87.38. This fee does not have to be paid right away. So you can register for orientation and then wait for your financial aid to take effect, because it's not due until September 1st. It is a mandatory fee, so there is no waiver, there is no appeal to this fee. If you want more information on what the fee does or how our orientation office is utilizing these fees, I encourage you to reach out to that department. And so when you go in and register for orientation, you're going to see a select number of dates. These dates are based on your major or college. So while orientation may be running from June to July like it is for freshmen, you won't have all the dates available to you. We want to make sure that you're with a cohort of students who have the same major or within the same college as you. That way the academic advisors will be able to assist you better. And again, freshman orientation is June through July, and then transfer orientation is held July through August. Failure to register for orientation by May 8th is also going to result in your application being withdrawn. So I like to tell students there's really one way to get in, right? We either admit you or deny you, but there's so many ways to get your application withdrawn. So we just want to make sure that you're staying on top of all the deadlines and you don't miss anything. Next slide, please. And so I'm going to go ahead and talk a little bit about transcripts and provisional admission, because I know a lot of you are seeing in your portal, it'll say provisional admit, and you're probably wondering, well, what is that? Well, we granted you guys admissions based on your self-reported information on the application. We didn't ask you to send us transcripts or anything like that. So at this point, since we've admitted you based on that information, we need to verify that information. And we do that via your transcript. So for transfers, if any of you are transfer students, you guys already had to submit to us initial transcripts. That was grades through fall and coursework through spring. Freshman students, you all just have to submit to us a final transcript, and that is due July 15th. Transfer students also have to submit to us a final transcript, which is also due July 15th, and that's with spring's grades through spring. Once we verify that all admission requirements have been met, that provisional admission kind of goes away. Now you're a fully admitted student to CPP. And I know a lot of our freshman students take courses at their local community college, right? And sometimes your high school will add those courses to your high school transcripts, and sometimes they won't. For us to be able to grant you college credit, you have to submit transcripts from the community college you attended. So if you did do dual enrollment coursework, make sure you're not only submitting your high school transcript with all of your grades and your high school graduation date, but you're also submitting transcripts from the community college you attended or other university that you attended. And so the fastest way to get us transcripts is through Parchment or National Student Clearinghouse. These are two third-party electronic services that we work with. If you go onto their website, you can order transcripts through there. If your school is maybe a smaller school or private school or something like that, they can send us transcripts directly to the email address that you see on the slide. The only thing I don't want you guys to do is order transcripts from one of these third-party services, send them to yourself, and then forward them to us. If you do that, they are considered unofficial and we will not accept them. So just make sure they're coming directly either from a third party or directly from your school. You can also drop transcripts off in person if they're in a sealed envelope from the school. Do not open that envelope, because if you do, that again makes them unofficial, or you can mail them to us. The fastest way, though, is through one of these third-party services. I don't recommend mailing them to us because a lot of time there's no tracking and we have no idea where they're going. As mentioned earlier, final transcripts are due July 15th. If you don't submit transcripts by then, we will withdraw your application. Next slide, please. And so some external exams. So SAT and ACT scores, they are not required for admissions. You did not have to take them to be admitted, but we can use them for class placement for English and math. We would like you all to submit them by June 1st if you've taken it. That way it just allows us to place you in the appropriate English and math class for your orientation. If you didn't take them, that's okay. We'll find other means to place you into the appropriate classes. And then for any advanced placement scores, you all can receive college credit if you received a 3 or higher on any of the AP exams. And then with IB, if you received a 4 or higher on any of the higher level exams, you can also receive college credit. The deadline to send this is the same as our transcript. It is July 15th. I know some freshmen still haven't taken all of their AP exams. That's okay. Just send them to us as soon as you get your scores. Sometimes College Board releases scores a little bit later than we'd like. If that's the case for you, that's okay. Just go ahead and give our admissions office a call or email us. That way we can make accommodations. For transfer students, your guys' AP scores are archived, meaning that they can't send them to us electronically, and College Board has a 4 to 6 week turnaround. So if you are a transfer student and you know you have AP credit, just go ahead and order those scores now. That way they arrive to us on time and we're able to give you appropriate credit by your orientation date. All of these do have to be ordered through their testing agency. I know a lot of times, especially for transfer students, you've already given your AP scores to maybe your community college and they've put them on your transcript. You have to order them from College Board for us to be able to grant credit. And again, the deadline to submit these to us is July 15th. Next slide, please. And so I'm going to do a quick overview of kind of like the deadlines you all need to remember, right? If you take a picture or screenshot anything for admission purposes, this is the slide to do so. So you need to submit your intent to enroll by May 1st. You need to register for mandatory orientation by May 8th. If you're interested in housing, you can apply for housing. Their priority deadline is April 15th. But if you have questions about housing, I would encourage you to reach out to their department. And you have to attend mandatory orientation. For freshmen, again, that's June through July. And for transfers, that is July through August. And then our last deadline is final transcripts and AP scores or other external exams, which would be July 15th. Every single deadline on here, except for the housing, can result in your application being withdrawn if you don't meet that deadline. So again, it's super important that you stay on top of your deadlines. And that's it for me. I'm going to go ahead and hand that over to David from our financial aid office.
Jasmine, if you can address the question, we have a couple of students asking for transfers that were asked in the month of March, or if they want to know if final transcripts have been received. How would students be able to know that those transcripts have been received by our office?
So when we ask for transcripts, it's always on your guys' to-do list on the portal. If you no longer see the to-do list item on your portal, that means we have received and processed the transcripts. If you still want further confirmation, which I get, you guys can go ahead and email us and I will put our email in the chat and then we can confirm that for you. And I also see a question about high school transcripts for transfer students. If you're a transfer student, you do not need to submit high school transcripts unless we've asked for them, which we very rarely do. That would be a special case, but transfer students do not need to submit high school transcripts.
Perfect. As a reminder, this was for transfer students. If you do not see a to-do for transcripts at this time and you're a transfer student, it's because those have been received and are being processed. If you're a high school student, you will begin to see a to-do item for final official transcripts that will be due July 15th. Next up, we'll invite our Office of Financial Aid and Scholarships.
Hi, everyone. My name is David Jimenez. I'm a financial aid counselor here at Cal Poly Pomona. Welcome and congratulations. So our first slide, we're going to talk about the #1 rule in financial aid, which is always apply for financial aid. So you are required to submit aid application, basically. So every year, it does not matter if you think you won't qualify. One of our state-funded grants, which is called a middle class scholarship, has an income ceiling of up to $200,000 for annual household income. So a lot of people think that you might not qualify for any financial aid. but please submit your aid application every year. Many schools will not consider you for merit or scholarships unless you apply for your aid application, be it the FAFSA or the California Dream Act application. So please do your aid applications, because some of our scholarships do require for them to an aid application to be on file. Okay. Another thing is that loans are financial aid. So one of the myths that we get a lot is, well, I don't need financial aid, but I do need a loan. So loans does fall under the umbrella of financial aid. So you do have to have an aid application on file if you want a government or a state loan. Next slide. So most of you have already completed your FAFSA or DREAM Act application. There's really nothing else for you to do at this point for the aid application. Remember, our annual application window is from October 1st to March 2nd, which is about 5 months. So just keep in mind, though, that you do need to renew this every single year, okay? Some students just do it once and then they kind of forget about it with the pressures of school, you know, everything else that's going on in your life. But please renew your aid application every single year. The priority deadline for FAFSA filers is March 2nd, and then the absolute deadline for California DREAM Act application is March 2nd. So please renew your aid applications every single year. Next slide. So here are some frequent errors that we receive every year. You might do the wrong year for the aid application. So remember, the one for the upcoming school year is 23-24 aid application. So make sure that you are doing the right application every single year. You can always look on our website or contact us and we will tell you what application is up next. But for the 23-24 aid application, it is for the fall 2023, which will be, you know, this August, the following spring 2024 term, and then the summer 2024 term. Another common error that we get is that your aid application does not match what we have here in admissions or your registration at Cal Poly Pomona. Some students, you know, leave out maybe a second last name, or they put a preferred first name. Like for an example, if your name is Jonathan and you put John, or if you leave out one of your second or one of your last names, because that's your preference. So make sure that you are submitting everything is unified, basically everything matches every single time you do it, and stick to your legal name. It will avoid a lot of problems. If you happen to do this, our office will let you know, and it's a correction that we can easily make, but just try to avoid this right off the bat. Next question, next slide. Cool, so just some important information. So just like Jasmine mentioned, please pay attention to deadlines. You will unfortunately miss out on some fundings if you miss the deadline, especially the March 2nd deadline. So just to remind you, you must apply every single year. The application opens up on October 1st, and it's the same time that our scholarships open up on October 1st. So the same 5 months from October 1st to March 2nd, always think about that you're being proactive for the upcoming year with getting your aid application in and applying for scholarships. Please include our Cal Poly Pomona school code, which is highlighted in yellow, every time you do your aid application. This is very important here, is check your school email regularly. So at cpp.edu, for security purposes, our office will stop emailing you to your personal Gmail, Hotmail, Yahoo accounts, especially if you're a high school senior. Those high school email address basically get terminated after a certain time. So we won't even be able to get a hold of you after a certain time. So basically make sure that when you're applying for your FAFSA or your DREAM Act application, you start using your school email or your personal email, and then all our notifications will come straight to your email, your school email. And then our next deadline right now is we are collecting documents So you might show something on your to-do list item, kind of like Jasmine said about the transcripts. So we will start putting things on your to-do list item, and then that deadline is on May 5th, so which is about 6 weeks from now. So our next slide basically goes into what happens next. So next week, we start awarding students. So all incoming students basically will start getting awards next week. You will either get an estimated package, is basically if you are missing some information, or you would get an official award notification. But those will start next week. You will get an email from our office with instructions on how to go onto your student portal, and then basically start viewing your aid. After that, we have open house. If you have documents to submit, we are going to have about 12 representatives here from financial aid at open house. Open house is a big deal for us. So basically, we want to congratulate you and your families to being at Cal Poly as an admitted students, and then help you take care of any questions you might have or turn in any documentation. So we'll be here on that Saturday on April 15th. And then the document deadline, like we said, was on May 5th. And then school starts on August 24th. So next slide. So if you haven't had access to your Bronco email, scan this QR code and it will take you by step-by-step instructions on how to access your school email from now on. It will also show you how to view your financial aid awards starting next week. Once you start seeing your financial aid awards, we auto accept all the grants for you. Grants and scholarships, since it is free money that you do not have to repay, we will start auto accepting that for you, since clearly you won't deny it. And then the loans, that is voluntary. So not all students need loans. So if you want to accept or decline your student loans, it will show you how to do that. And then also it will show you how to monitor your to-do list items. So we got next slide. So this is just a quick screenshot of what you're going to be doing starting next week on how to, well, you could actually start using this now if you want to see if you have any to-do list items. You would click on that red box, highlighted in red. It says Bronco Direct Student Center. Next slide. Once you click on the left-hand side, it says Student Center, you will be able to see your to-do list. So there you would see basically anything from not only our office, but other offices on campus. You go to next slide. Starting next week, you will be able to start seeing your financial aid awards. You would click on the number 1 box where it says financial, then my financial aid. And then you would click finally on the 2024 academic year. So that would be our academic year starting in the fall of 2023. So we go to next slide. So very important here too. So once you complete your FAFSA or your California Dream Act application, you know how you're listing about 10 schools, you can list up to 10 schools. So the state, the California Student Aid Commission doesn't know exactly what school you're going to go to. So it is very important that you create an account using Web Grants for Students if you haven't already done so. Some transfer students already have this done, or some even high school seniors already have done this. But basically, we need you guys to basically go in there, create an account, and to see what possible state awards you can get on top of what we are offering you here on campus. It is very important that you look after creating an account to see if there's any pending items. If you look at the little box here, basically the orange box will let you know if you have any pending items. If you get a green box, that means that there's nothing else for you to do. You would just have to verify that Cal Poly Pomona is listed as your primary school so we can start getting your awards. If you update any information on the Web Grants for Students website, it will take our office about 2 to 3 weeks. So don't panic if you don't see it on a week or maybe 2 weeks. We will get an updated roster from them, and then we will basically update your package for you. Anytime there's an update on your package, we will let you know by an email. So next slide, please. So this is an example here of a student. Basically, this is exactly what you'll see when you log in. This student here basically has not only pending items, but the wrong priority school listed. So the orange box will let you know what you need, and then you would basically just click on the orange little box that says to do, and then basically it will tell you what you need to do, especially if you're a transfer student. Most transfer students will have to do something called the transfer entitlement form. Their forms are electronics. You don't have to print it out, fax it, email, nothing like that. You just submit it right on their website. It's a quick transition. Once this turns green, it will tell you what your awards are in that third box where it's empty right now because of the pending items, and then how many years of eligibility you have left. Next slide, please. So please be informed. Our website is very user-friendly. If you just go to our financial aid website, and most students here are undergraduate students. So if you click on undergrad, and then you click on newly admitted students, and then you click on aid awards, basically it will show you all the different types of awards you can get here on campus, all the different types of funding, let it be scholarships, grants, loans, parent loans. Some parents, need to take out parent loans to help pay for housing, or tuition charges, private loans if you want to go that route. So please be informed. You can click on any of those boxes. It will open up and expand and give you more detail on those different types of aid. And then it's good source of information, basically let you know. Sometimes students want to compare, well, maybe why my friend got this, or why did I get this, or even a sibling. So you can see why they might have qualified and then not you. So please be informed, and you can use our website. Next slide. So there are many ways to connect with us on campus. Excuse me. We are open Monday through Friday from 8 to 5 at the blue counter of building 121. We have a great thing called the Billy chatbot. That is 24/7. Basically, if you go to our website, you can ask Billy a question. And then basically, if Billy will give you, so if let's say you ask Billy, how do I complete my FAFSA? Or when is the FAFSA due? Things like that. Billy will give you the answer and probably a video or link to go and look up that answer. If you ask Billy a question and Billy does not know the answer, if it's during these times, we have live agents that basically could answer these questions, kind of just like the Q&A right now. They would just go and you'll be able to chat with them live. We also encourage you to join us virtually on a Zoom meeting or in person, and there's a link for that. And then finally, you can email us. Emailing is basically not our most popular way to connect with us, and just because the timeline might be a little longer than any of these other ways. So especially if it's time sensitive, if it's May 4th and the document deadline is the very next day, probably don't email us. There's probably a lot of emails sitting there. So basically join us either virtually, swing by our office, or give us a call.
David, there's a couple of questions that it might be good to answer here. If for students that made changes to their income taxes, do they need to forward that information to the Office of Financial Aid?
So great question. So basically, if they made changes to their income taxes, it will most likely get flagged from our office. But you can, if you want to join virtually, you will speak to a financial aid counselor, and then we can look and we can ask you questions regarding basically like what is it that you changed and is it important, and then basically what is your timeline to turn it in. Sometimes, when they're asking you for FAFSA or California DREAM Act application, remember it's 2 years ago. So if you made changes to a 2022, sorry, muting myself. If you made changes to a 2022 tax return, remember that won't go into effect until next year when you're applying for aid applications. So very important. We go off 2 years ago. So if you're not certain, just come and join us, and basically we'll let you know.
Perfect. And then a follow-up question. In the CSAC, if a student has applied to FAFSA already or their DREAM Act application submitted, do they receive an award if they have Cal Poly listed as a #1 institution? Or in general, if they have Cal Poly listed, will they receive an estimate award?
Yeah, so basically we will estimate you. So even if you don't have Cal Poly Pomona listed on CSAC website on the web grants for students, we can see, we get a report of what you can possibly get. So it would be under your estimated amount, but it won't become official until you actually list us as your primary school.
Okay, so we want to make sure folks are listing Cal Poly Pomona as a primary school, as a reminder for all. All right, thank you so much, David.
Sure.
Up next, we're going to go ahead and have our representative from Outreach, Recruitment, and Educational Partnership, Dulce.
All right, so good afternoon, everyone. I'm Dulce Guerrero from the Office of Outreach, Recruitment, and Educational Partnerships. First and foremost, congratulations on your admissions to Cal Poly Pomona. From thousands and thousands of applications, you were admitted, so it's a wonderful thing, and definitely you should be celebrating. We are going to be having our spring open house for admitted students that applied for the fall semester of 2023 on April 15th. The timeframe will be from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. You need to register, so the link is here provided to you. Feel free to register for the event. It's a free event, and it's the best day to come out there and get connected with the university, talk to different resources among campus that we have. As David indicated, they're going to be there to actually address any questions that you have and collect documentation that you need to submit. The academic colleges will be there to talk to you more about the majors and what they have to offer. So certainly we welcome you. Come over with the family. And again, we're looking forward to seeing you in the Bronco family. Thank you.
So lastly, we just wanted to go ahead and remind you to, if you have any questions, please use the Q&A feature on the Zoom box. If you don't see it immediately, you may want to look under the option that says 3 dots and more. You can see that Q&A feature there to enter your questions. We have about 12 more minutes where we'll be able to address those. But lastly, we just want to remind you of some of the deadlines that our presenters shared with you today. May 1st, this is when you accept your admissions offer. Following that is registration for orientation, which is May 8th. But remember, this is the time when you meet with your advising team. This is the time when you register for fall classes. So you want to make sure that you register for orientation as soon as possible. So if you know that this is the campus for you, we encourage you to accept your admissions pretty soon so that you're able to move on to register for orientation. And then lastly, we want to encourage you to make a note that your final official transcripts will be due July 15th. And as everybody has said during their presentation time, please continue to check your emails. We know that, it can be a little time consuming if you're at a high school, community college, but we want you to get into that regular habit of checking the communication that is being sent out about our office, including the invitation to join our open house event. So we're going to go through some of the questions that we have on the Q&A, and I invite our presenters to be able to also answer them live for those to be able to listen in. So I see a question that says, on my FAFSA application, Cal Poly Pomona is listed as my second school. That won't affect my award. David?
Yes, I was sorry. I was just answering that. So on the FAFSA or the California Dream Act, it could be listed in any order on the top 10. So basically, it will not have any effect on it whatsoever. It's just on the California, the CSAC basically website that it has to be #1.
Got it. Jasmine, I think this one will go to you. What if I haven't gotten a response to my application yet?
So we still have not made all admission decisions. All admission decisions will be made by April 1st. So just continue to monitor your portal and check your email.
And then we have another question. Can our application be withdrawn if we didn't submit fall transcripts in time for transfer students?
Yes. If you did not submit your transcripts by the deadline, and keep in mind the March 15th deadline was a postmark deadline, meaning it just needed to be sent on or before the 15th. Not that we necessarily had to have received it in our office, but if you did not do so, I still encourage you to submit your transcripts as soon as possible. But yes, your application can be withdrawn.
We'll wait just a couple more seconds to see if there's other questions that may be coming in. If it's easier for you and you want to raise your hand, we can call upon you to unmute and ask your question live too. There's a question about our open house. If I'm unable to attend on April 15th, is there a way that I can get a similar experience?
Definitely April 15 is the day of the open house. Certainly, students can still connect with the website to see if there's any information that is posted there. But as of the moment, that is the actual event that's happening April 15. Now, counselors are doing some presentations for admitted students in their high schools. So if it's something that we are having in your high school, then I would encourage you to also attend one of those presentations.
Okay, thank you. The next question is, how will I know if I was withdrawn? I send it the next day, and I'm assuming this might be a transcript.
So if any student is ever withdrawn, we do send a communication. You'll also be able to see it on your portal, but we will send you a communication letting you know that we've had to withdraw your application. And if that does happen to anybody, you are allowed to appeal your decision, your withdrawal decision. It'll have a link in our email to our appeals website that lists everything you need for an appeal.
Great, thank you. David, we'll go to you. If I didn't qualify for the Cal Grant, what other scholarships can I qualify for?
Okay, great. Yeah, so the California Student Aid Commission does offer something called a middle class scholarship as well. That is more of a grant. It's nothing that you have to do on top of it, like a scholarship. But we do have internal scholarships that are really great here on campus. The scholarship window, we call it Scholarship Fest. It goes between October 1st to March 2nd. Unfortunately, right now, you will not be able to apply for that. But yeah, our general scholarships are really great, where you basically create an account, you answer questions regarding like your major, your grade level, your GPA, things like that. And then it filters the ones you qualify for. So you're basically not wasting your time. So really great question. We will promote Scholarship Fest a lot. You will get emails about it. You will see signs around campus, posters, all kinds of stuff. So yeah, so you'll know when Scholarship Fest is going on.
I also included a link in our chat so you can learn more about Scholarship Fest. While the deadline for most scholarships was March 2nd to align with the priority deadline for FAFSA and DREAM Act application, there may be a few scholarships that are still open that you may be eligible for. Our next question came in: if a class or classes are not completed on time, as stated in transcript submitted, can that affect admissions?
So if the course that's not completed or not passed is part of your general admission requirements, so for freshmen, it's your A through G requirements, for transfers, it's your 60 units and your Golden 4, and in some cases, supplemental coursework depending on your major, yes, that can impact your admissions because you do have to meet admission requirements by the end of spring to remain admissible. Now, if it's a course that is outside any requirement, and say maybe you dropped it and got a W, W's don't impact it admissions because it doesn't impact GPA. But if it's a course that you received a substandard grade in, that does still impact your GPA. And we really won't know anything until we do a final evaluation in the summer with all of your final transcripts. So my advice to you is to just continue trying as hard as you guys can in your courses and try not to receive any substandard grades.
Thank you for that, Jasmine. Our next question is, will we have to send our COVID vaccination records to attend the in-person orientation? Anything that will be added by our health department, our student health department through your to-do list. And if you have specific questions, they're more than happy to answer those questions for you. Okay. Somebody asked, I have not accepted my admissions offer to Cal Poly Pomona. Why not? No, but we'll continue. Just yet, as a larger part of my decision is based on how much financial aid I can receive. Are financial aid awards typically the same for all Cal states, or do they vary from college to college?
Yeah, so they definitely vary from college to college, especially because there's limited funding for each school. So basically, you might have a sibling with exactly the same situation and this exactly the same outcome of the FAFSA or the California Dream Act with the EFC number, but it might have a higher threshold for one school and not the other school. So basically, and they might have different priority deadlines. So each school is completely different.
Mhm. Thank you. Somebody asked, I had to drop my class at a community college recently and won't go back to school until I start in the fall at Cal Poly Pomona. Will this affect me?
Unless the class you dropped is, again, to meet an admission requirement, the likelihood that it's gonna impact your admissions is low. But again, we can't guarantee anything until we have that transcript in the summer. But what we're really looking for is that you meet those admission requirements and your GPA doesn't fall too below the GPA you were admitted with.
Okay, great. We are coming into our time, so we will address our last two questions here, but we encourage you again to take a look at the email that was sent inviting you to open house on April 15th. Various departments, all of our academic colleges, including undeclared, will be present, and they'll be happy to answer any questions at that point. If I don't, somebody asked the question, if I don't apply by April the 15th, do I not qualify for priority housing? I'm not sure if this is relating to the housing application or if the intent to enroll by April the 15th or open house on April the 15th. If the person wants to clarify, we're happy to address. And then we have another question that came up. I am planning to attend my current community college for some summer classes. What is the deadline to get those transcripts over?
So all of you can take summer classes as long as they're not classes to meet admission requirements, right? There's not necessarily a deadline to get those summer classes over to us. Just know that the sooner you do it, the better, because once you send us transcripts in the summer, it really goes to our registrar's office to then post credit, and that can take up to 6 to 8 weeks. So the sooner you get them to us, the faster that they can post credit for you.
Perfect, thank you. And the last question was around if you don't submit your priority housing application by April the 15th, will you not receive that priority housing? We always encourage students as best as possible to submit applications by the recommended timeframe, as that is something that those departments try to aim to provide assistance for students. But if you do have additional questions about housing, we recommend that you reach out to them to find out further information from them. Okay. Well, we thank everybody so much for joining us today. Again, congratulations for your application to Cal Poly Pomona. And we are very excited to see you not only on this webinar, but also to meet you in person during our open house on April the 15th. We encourage you to continue to check your emails, as important information is always communicated via email. But thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you for our presenters for joining us today and sharing information to all of our incoming students. Have a great night, everyone. Thank you, Cynthia. You can stop the recording.